אתה על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נעשיח בחוקיך על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נעשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד חיינו לאורך ימינו ובהם נגע יומם ולילה חיינו לאורך ימינו ובהם נגע יומם ולילה כי חיינו לאורך ימינו ובהם נגע יומם ולילה כי חיינו לאורך ימינו ובהם נגע יומם ולילה
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Chag Sameach, Cantor Peicott. How are you doing in your beautiful backyard?
You know, it's the spring festival, so I'm enjoying some beautiful, beautiful weather. I'm a little sick of matzah, I
I
gotta
was just
tell
going
you.
to say, this
I'm
is like that spot in Pesach when it starts to taste more like the box it comes in than
Yeah.
itself. At
Although
least
I
from
made
my
a
house.
really good discovery for anyone who's really sick of matzah, matzah cream cheese, but the everything but the bagel seasoning.
Ooh.
Yeah. It was like I think it's gonna get me through these last couple days. It's gonna get me over that hurdle.
I'll give you my hack, which is matzah lasagna, which you can take a traditional like veggie lasagna recipe. Don't soak it or cook it or anything. You put the matzah in as though you would the noodles. And I'm not going to go so far as to say you won't tell the difference, but it actually is some approximation of a pasta dish when it's done.
Oh, you don't have to soak it because
No,
the
you don't take
vegetables
because it
have
soaks
enough
up all the
moisture.
sauce and the juice and the veggies and everything. It's
Yeah.
it's a legit, you know, attempt at something that doesn't taste like matzah.
I like that. Well, my son turned his nose up at matzo brie, so I'm immediately disowning him. So if anyone wants a 15-month-old that doesn't like matzo brie,
Yeah, we just plied the 9 month old, or not 9 month old. We just plied the 4.5 year old with chocolate covered matzah because that was, the way to go.
yep.
So in that spirit, I saw that image in the montage there of halot of challah, and it just was so painful. I sometimes say that this Shabbat, out of every Shabbat of the year, is the least satisfying when we say motzi, because especially now we're almost at the end of Pesach, we're craving, some carbs unless you're on a keto diet, and you say motzi and the plate is flat, and you pick up the challah cover and there's just matzah under there. But such is where we are for another 2 days or so. So why don't we welcome Shabbat with Shabbat light, with the lighting of our Shabbat candles, with Kiddush, and with motzi over matzah.
Beautiful. Not only are we inviting in Shabbat, but we are also inviting the last days of Yom Tov
Mm,
for the holiday of
yes, yes.
Passover. So we'll be adding some extra liturgy to our blessings, but we're going to welcome in Shabbat full of rest, but also full of our Yom Tov spirit. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat v'shel Yom Tov. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach. We're going to continue with our Kiddush, which again has special liturgy inserted for the beginning of the last days of Passover, as well as a different melody, which is a melody that we use just for the festival holidays. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol am ורוממנו מכל לשון וקידשנו במצוותיו ותיתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה שבתות למנוחה ומועדים לשמחה חגים וזמנים לששון את יום השבת הזה ואת יום חג המצות הזה זמן חירותנו באהבה מקרא קודש זכר יציאת מצרים כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים ושבת ומועדי קודשך באהבה וברצון בשמחה ובששון הנחתנו ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת וישראל והזמנים לחיים.
Chaim.
And last but not least, the sad moment that Rabbi Shapiro was speaking about.
Not sad. It's just reality.
the reality of the matzah,
Matzah.
the bread of affliction,
More matzah.
the bread of our freedom. We join together in the motzi over the matzah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We did it. So
You're not going to take a bite, Cantor Peicott? You had enough matzah for the week? Is that there you go. Yeah.
A little bite. I tasted that.
Exactly.
That sweet affliction. So, because we're welcoming in the Yom Tov, the last few days of the Chag of Passover, our Shabbat liturgy changes a little bit. Normally, we would welcome in Shabbat with music and psalms from the Kabbalat Shabbat service. But on a Yom Tov, we take out Kabbalat Shabbat. And the reason that I was given in cantorial school of why we remove Kabbalat Shabbat was that we don't want the Shekhinah, the spirit of Shabbat, the Shabbat bride. We don't want, because we welcome in with such fanfare and celebration, we don't want the Chag, the Yom Tov, to get jealous. And I never really liked that explanation. So instead, I'm going to offer to you what Rav Soloveitchik said, a great Jewish thinker and philosopher, which is that on Shabbat, we welcome in holiness into our homes. But on a Yom Tov, on a Chag, we seek to kind of rise ourselves to this holier place. And what better to bring ourselves to this place of the divine, the place to where the godliness dwells, than by starting our Shabbat with a moment of gratitude. And so we open up our Yom Tov Shabbat service with Psalm 92, Tov lehodot. It is good to give thanks. And my brightness, excellent. And so I encourage you at home to just think about what it is this Passover. This Passover seems so different than last year. What is it that you're feeling grateful for? Tov lehodot l'Adonai, Tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Tov tov lehodot l'Adonai, Tov lehodot l'Adonai, Tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Tov tov lehodot l'Adonai, להגיד בבוקר הצלחה, להגיד בבוקר הצלחה, באמונת בלילות, באמונת בלילות, טוב טוב להודות לאדוני, להגיד בבוקר הצלחה, להגיד בבוקר הצלחה, באמונת בלילות, באמונת בלילות, טוב טוב להודות לאדוני. להגיד בבוקר הצלחה, להגיד בבוקר הצלחה,
So beautiful, Cantor Peicott. We've talked about this, but one of my favorite settings of Psalm 92 that I discovered and heard many years ago at the Minyan Shira Chadasha in the German colony in Jerusalem, which is their minchag there on Friday evenings as Shabbat comes in. We'll rise now together for the Baruch Hu.
We join together in the words of the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. We join together in the chanting of the Ve'ahavta. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavecha ubechol nafshecha ubechol meodecha vehayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בהם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. This week we read a special Torah portion for the conclusion of Pesach. And it's uniquely Jewish, to say the very least. And I say that because it finds our ancestors engaged in perhaps the most beloved pastime of our people, complaining, kvetching. Were there not enough graves in Egypt that you had to bring us out here to die? What have you done to us, taking us out of Egypt? We begged you to leave us alone and let us stay slaves. After all, it would have been better than dying out here in the wilderness. Our ancestors kvetch Moses. Here they are, free for the very first time in generations, and all they can do is complain. If that isn't chutzpah, I don't know what is. Now, the rabbis of the Midrash take it one step further. They explained that as our ancestors were leaving Egypt, wandering through the desert to freedom, two Israelites, Reuven and Shimon, were walking a little bit slower than the rest. And they really really couldn't stop complaining. It seems like we've been walking forever, Reuven says. My feet hurt. I know, exclaimed Shimon in agreement. The sand is so hot and it's getting in my sandals and between my toes. On they walked, complaining about the heat, complaining about the sand, complaining about anything and everything they could possibly find to complain about. Look at this, Shimon grunts. Now we're traipsing through the mud. This is disgusting. This is worse than the mud pits we were forced to work in Egypt, Reuven complains. We should never have left. And so it goes for Reuven and Shimon. Complaint after complaint after complaint. They were so focused on their complaining, so focused on what was going wrong, that they never bothered to notice why the hot sand had turned to mud. Never bothered to notice that they were walking through the bottom of the sea. For Reuven and Shimon, the miracle of the splitting of the sea, the miracle that we celebrate each and every day, 2 times a day when we sing joyfully the words of the Mi Chamocha, that miracle never happened because they were simply too busy complaining to notice it. The Passover Haggadah that we opened a week ago instructs us, Bechol dor vador, in every generation, we are to see ourselves as if it were us who came out of Egypt. The story is not only about our ancestors, it is about us. How often are we like Reuven and Shimon? How many miracles do we miss each and every day because we allow the bad to obscure the good? May this final Shabbat of Pesach be one of awareness and gratitude for all of the miracles that surround us and for all the blessings of our lives. Hag Sameach, Shabbat Shalom. We join together with our youth choir in the song that our ancestors sang on the shores of the sea, Mi Chamocha.
Many nights we've prayed with no proof anyone could hear. In our hearts a hopeful song we barely understood.
Now we are not afraid, although we know there's much to fear.
We were moving mountains long before we knew we could. There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. Who knows what miracles you can achieve when you believe. Somehow you will. You will when you believe. Ashira Adonai ki Ashira Adonai ki Mi Chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi Chamocha leda ba'kodesh. Nachita v'chazecha am sugalta. Nachia v'chazdecha am sugalta. Ashira, Ashira, Ashira. There can be miracles when you believe. The
you will when you believe.
We continue celebrating the beauty of Shabbat with Vishamri.
Vishameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'torotam berit olam b'ni u'v'bnei Yisrael oti le'olam ki shishet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et ha'aretz u'vayom ha'shavi shavat vayinafash.
We rise now for the Amidah.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibur ve'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim Ve'Konei Hakol Ve'Zocher Chazdei Avot ve'Imahot U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem Leman Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen Baruch ata Adonai Magen Avraham Ve'Ezrat Sarah Ata Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayei HaKol Ata Rav Lehoshia Morid Hatal Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed Mechayei HaKol Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim Umatir Asurim Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar Michamocha Baal Gevurot Umidomelach Melech Memit Umechayei Umatzmiach Yeshua V'neheman ata lehachayot hakol Baruch ata Adonai Mechayei hakol.
We continue now with moments of silent meditation.
As Rabbi Shapiro so beautifully said, that Bechol Dor Vador, in every generation, we're supposed to feel as if we were the ones that left Egypt, that left Mitzrayim. And we also read in our Passover Haggadah the words of Vehi She'amda, that our ancestors taught, that every generation we're going to face the pharaohs, we're going to face the COVID-19, we're going to face racial injustice, we're going to face divisive politics. But that with the courage and the faith and the belief in miracles, and most importantly, the belief in one another, that we can overcome any obstacles that are thrown our way. The words of Vehi She'amda. Vehi she'amda la'avoteinu, Vehi she'amda la'avoteinu velanu, shelo echad bilvad amad aleinu lechalotenu, amad aleinu lechalotenu, Vehi she'amda la'avoteinu, Vehi she'amda la'avoteinu velanu, shelo echad bilvad amad aleinu lechalotenu, amad aleinu lechalotenu, ve'akadosh baruch hu matzilenu, matzilenu mi'adam, ve'akadosh baruch hu matzilenu, matzilenu mi'adam, vehi she'amda la'avoteinu, vehi she'amda la'avoteinu velanu, shelo echad bilvad amad aleinu lechalotenu, amad aleinu lechalotenu, vehi she'amda la'avoteinu, vehi she'amda la'avoteinu velanu, shelo echad bilvad amad aleinu lechalotenu, amad aleinu lechalotenu.
We take a moment amidst our joy and our celebration on the Shabbat to think of loved ones and family members, members of our community who are in need of healing, in need of wholeness. If you're thinking of someone tonight who could use a bit of wholeness, a bit of healing, I invite you to call their name to mind now, to hold them in your heart now, as together we offer these healing words of Mishberach.
Mishberach avoteinu mekol habracha leimoteinu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imoteinu mekol habracha le'avoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. usually on Celebration Shabbat, we have an opportunity to celebrate all of the milestones during the month, birthdays, anniversaries, and we thought, seeing as we had just surpassed the 1 year mark of this pandemic, the 1 year mark of all of us being stuck in our homes, but still being able to connect with you as our WBT community, that we would take a moment to celebrate literally the trek and the journey that we have all been on together throughout this entire year of WBT at home. So here's celebrating our journey that will hopefully lead to the promised land and a world that is free from COVID and where we can all return to be with each other in person.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
We never would have wished any of this to have happened, but it's pretty amazing everything that we've all been able to do together and to stay connected. So thank you to you, our congregation, to you, Rabbi Shapiro, everyone at Wilshire Boulevard Temple. We've been on quite a journey, but it's been a beautiful one.
Absolutely, and to you as well, Cantor Peicott, and to all the folks on the temple side behind the cameras. You get to see Cantor Peicott and myself and all of our colleagues, but you don't get to see everybody else on the other side who makes all this possible and makes us look good. And I think the key word that Cantor Peicott just shared is together. You know, we are all in this together, and we're making it all happen together. And that's really, really, really beautiful. We are in the midst of a period known as the Omer, Sfirat HaOmer, which begins at Pesach and lasts for 7 weeks, for 49 days. We're commanded to count off 49 days, 7 weeks, from Pesach to Shavuot, to link these two festivals together, to link the freedom that we celebrate at Pesach, the freedom from slavery, the freedom from bondage, the freedom from Egypt, with the seminal event of Shavuot, which is receiving the Torah at Mount Sinai, a way of linking our freedom with our redemption. And so we count off these days for each of the days of this period of the Omer. And so we'll do that now. I believe, the risk of embarrassing myself, that it is the 6th day of the Omer. Is that right, Cantor Peicott?
Yasher koach, Rabbi.
Oh,
Well done. You
breathe
passed
a sigh of relief
rabbinical school.
that I
You
didn't get that
passed.
one wrong.
So we have a blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirishanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sefirat haomer hayom shishi yamim laomer. And as Rabbi Shapiro so correctly stated, it is the 6th day of the Omer. We have completed 1 week of counting of the Omer. And the Kabbalists look at the Omer and they look at it as we're each on a spiritual journey to prepare ourselves for Shavuot, where we receive the Torah at Mount Sinai. And they have themes for each night that we count. And the theme for this Shabbat is Yesod Shebechesed, which means bonding in loving kindness. So I challenge you, as we all prepare ourselves to receive Torah. What is it this Shabbat that you can do to bond with your loved ones? Can you prepare matzah bride tomorrow morning for Shabbat? Can you do a puzzle? Can you have a moment where you bond surrounded by the love and the connection that you have with your loved ones?
So I'm happy to make the matzah bride for everybody else. I just don't want to have to eat it. I'll be the unpopular person, which is it's not my favorite. Just gonna
You and my son. He turned
see.
his nose
Just
up
gonna,
at my
I
matzah
know.
bride.
I'd rather have just an omelet, just a regular plain old omelet. Just one guy's opinion, right? So, in all seriousness, a few very brief announcements before we begin to conclude our service this evening. Tomorrow morning, 9:00, you can join our beloved Rabbi Stan Davids for Chevra Torah. And tomorrow at 5 p.m., you can join Cantor Spencer Shapiro for Torah Yoga. And Sunday morning, 10:00, Sunday is the 8th day, the final day of Pesach. So you can join us at 10:00 in the morning for our 8th day Pesach service, which also encompasses a Yizkor memorial service. You know, many of us are familiar with the idea that we have a Yizkor service on Yom Kippur afternoon to remember those whom we have loved and lost. But we actually recite Yizkor 4 times a year, on Pesach, on Sukkot, on Pesach, and also in about now 6 weeks on Shavuot. So please join us Sunday morning at 10:00 for Pesach services and for Yizkor. With that, we'll turn our thoughts to sacred moments of memory and moments of Kaddish as we think of loved ones and family members who are no longer with us. We begin by thinking of those for whom we're in a period of Shloshim, those who have died during these past 30 days, as we call to mind Charmaine Blatt, Frank Feeder, Doug Gerson, Barry Kesser, Yusuf Mabubianfard, Jaleh Eshkanian, Michael Portis, Honey Schulman, and Margalit Zadok. We add to their names the names of those whose yahrzeits occurred during this past week: Cindy Bender, Doris Bortz, Aaron Birkin, Ben Cohen, Betty Stein Coleman, Erica Cotter, Rivka Davidson, Ronald Dennett, Marvin DeRoven, Sue Dorff, David Ettinger, Wally Esakov, Raymond Feldman, Ruth Frumovitz, Bill Gilbert, Gladys Ginsburg, Hyman David Glassberg, Ruth Glatter, Nicholas Gluckin, Paul Goldberg, Elizabeth Gottlieb, George Grant, Milton Gumpert, Eleanor Guthman, Eleanor Haas, Nori Habibian, Betty Heisler, Adolf Hoffman, Hyman Hoffman, Ruth Hoffman, Rita Howard, Judy Jaffe, Felix Judah, Edwin Sigmund Kahn, Beverly Kay, Marilyn Keith, Helen Kelson, Sally Cobrine, Elaine Krasnow, Richard Colwyn, Paul Lampert, Belle Lazaritz, Margot Lee, Dorothy Levin, Emmanuel Lewis, Charles Lieber, Ruth Linker, Gilbert Leiser, William Lowenberg, Hal Minter, Milton Nadulman, Kahan Baba Norman, Albert Nussbacher, Rosalind Ostrovsky, Genevieve Pollock, Grace Pollock, Boris Porter, David Rand, Max Renoff, Dorothy Natalie Rosen, Joseph Ross, Dorothy Rothman, Grace Rubenstein, Marshall Sapphire, Claire Satnick, Walter Sauter, James Schlesinger, Mildred Schwartz, Shirley Schwartz, Abraham Shapiro, Rosina Shear, Leah Siegel, Wally Sloan, Rita Stein, Herschel Tenenbaum, Eleanor Uslin, and Russell Weinstein. We also think of those to whom we are grateful but do not know, those who have fallen defending the flags of the United States of America, the State of Israel, and all the innocent victims of senseless terrorism and violence all over the world, and everyone who has no one to say Kaddish for them. Zichronam livracha. May their memories always be for a blessing. We join together in the words of the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divrach chilutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'gala v'zman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh. Yitadar v'taleh v'talal shemei dekudsha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush pechata v'nechemata. Ta'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru. Amen.
Normally, we would conclude our service with the words of Oseh Shalom, a prayer for peace. But during this weekend's Passover services, we relive the journey of the Israelites and the sea parting and them making their way across, leaving Egypt behind. And we read about how Miriam and her women, even though they knew their journey to freedom was far from over, as we know they then journeyed in the wilderness for 40 more years, they took a moment to celebrate that win. And I think for all of us, we know that our journey through the wilderness of this year isn't quite over, but that it's okay that we celebrate those little wins. So we're going to end with Miriam's song. This is from our Shabbat Shira service a couple of months ago, featuring cantors from all over the country. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Good night.
One which sang our history. With every strand and every thread she crafted her delight. A woman touched with spirit, she dances towards the light. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. Stood upon the shores and gazed across the sea. The wonder of this miracle she soon came to believe. Whoever thought the sea would part with an outstretched hand, and we would pass to freedom, march to the promised land. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who we've exalted. Timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her just as she had planned. And Miriam raised her voice in song, she sang with praise and might. We've just lived through a miracle, we're going to dance tonight. And the women dancing with their timbrels